Come to Remora TC to trade like a shark and not get eaten by one. Let's school together to protect and grow our money. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Wednesday, March 13th. Let's review the charts that we've been tracking: Microsoft, GDX, ExxonMobil, and Bitcoin. You could see here Microsoft's chart. It's the 1 year easy uptrend that you could see. Let's switch over to the chart, review what I talked about last time, and see how I did. You can see here, I'm going to zoom in for us on the daily here. So right here, I talked about this zone of resistance, two of them in fact, that one and this one here, and then support in the green here. So just remember that if you see any pink line, then it's resistance. My prediction of resistance, and any green line, that's my zone of support. Okay, so what you can see in the past couple of days for this line here is that it does prove to be resistance. Okay, you can see it so many times here, all these touches, even this green candle here. And then today, price opened up here, sold all the way down to even the bottom of this wick. And then at the end of the day, moved up and closed right there. Okay, zoom in for us real quick. So you can see that it behaves as expected and that it closed right on that line. So the question is it going to use that line as support, right? If it's going to use it as support, then tomorrow price would likely go upward. Let's zoom out real quick, get a feel for it, see if there's any divergence or change in the momentum indicators down here below. Scanning across the daily chart, and yes, we see the divergence here, right? This has been notated for a while. I don't see any bullish divergence to indicate a change in the direction. So my thesis remains the same. I think price will come down the next couple of days. It may use this as support, okay, but I think the direction remains downward for Microsoft. And we're going to zoom out here, take a look at the weekly chart real quick, just to give us a feel. This zone up here, which is where all-time highs are, momentum is downward, and I think lower prices are coming for Microsoft. All right, so let's switch to GDX, gold miners. We can see very obviously these three green candles for the past month and a half or so. Let's take a look at the chart. All right, here's the daily chart. My depiction a couple of days ago, which was on Sunday, was the zone of resistance here would hold, and that if price came up to it, which it did here, that it would sell down and get rejected, right? It would reject off of this and come down. And I also said that if it came down to this green support, which is where the 200-day is, that it would be a decent entry to go long. Well, in fact, it happened exactly as I had predicted, but I wasn't following the trade carefully enough, because I do have a day job, that I missed the entry. I missed the entry completely. So I'm not in the trade. Now, the entry would have been, let's switch over to the hourly chart to show you. Okay, so here's the hourly chart. Okay, so I said that this up here is the pink zone of resistance, right? You see that there. And I also said that if it came down to this 200-day, that would be a good entry. And in fact, look at this. Boom, a kiss right there. Okay, so when we're able to draw technical trend lines accurately and know how to read charts well and create support lines or resistance lines accurately, then our entries for trades could be phenomenal for actually tracking it from an hourly perspective. So I missed this entry, so I'm not in it. I'm not going to chase it. And I said that if price comes up and hits this pink zone here, which is when I annotate it on the daily, it's drawn such that you can see it as an area where price will hit resistance, right? You can see it there. When I go back to the hourly, that's exactly what happened. You can see that when price came up and it kissed it up here. I like to use that word kiss because it's like a beautiful touch right there. That would have been a short opportunity, because look down here you have bearish divergence on the hourly. Okay, so when we compare this spot here on the hourly and this spot here, okay, this is going higher, price is going higher, but here you can see very obviously from here all the way down, it's bearish. So such that when you add those two concepts together of zone of resistance here, upward moving price, confirming zone of resistance twice, and then bearishness here. That would have been a nice short, but I have a life as well, and wasn't able to take the short entry. So, what would I suggest? If one were to paper trade this ticker, what's the direction? Let me clean this up a little bit. Switch back to the daily. It's a little bit cumbersome to use this platform TradingView as a educational tool. You just have to bear with me when I do it. Okay. So what is my prediction? My prediction over the next couple of days is lower prices for GDX because you can even see it here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. This is on the daily. Let's take a look. If we were to compare, okay, you see this thin line, right? Vertical line, which is on this green candle right here. So on this green candle right here, which is March 11th, you could see the price is lower here, right? This is a high, and then a couple of days later, which is today, is a higher high. Whereas here, it's a high, but then it's a low here. Okay, so it's just a concept of momentum change. Okay, divergence in momentum versus price. So my suggestion for folks, if you're wanting to wait for a discounted price, then let's just wait, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait, allow price to come down, come down. It may test this 29.30 price point. It may even come back down to the 200-day again down here. Okay, in which case, if it bounces off the 200-day again, I'm going to go long. Or, but if it fails, then an even more beautiful entry would be down here at this 28 zone. Okay, so this is how we do it. All right, let's continue here. So if you're using TradingView and making annotations like I did on Sunday, I didn't save it. So that was a key fail on my part. So tonight I'm saving as I go. Oh, and one other thought. So the quick zoom out here, you can see that there's this gap down here, down in the 27s. So if price were to fail on this nice trend line here, then I would be careful, right? If price fails at this point, then it has further to go to fill this gap, and it may even come all the way down here to the purple, which would be a beautiful entry if the momentum remains bullish. Let's switch over to ExxonMobil. Now this one is really interesting from a narrative standpoint. A quick side note. So you can see I have Microsoft here. This is my proxy for the technology trade. So if you follow the triple QQQ fund, this is how I would trade triple Qs. If you follow metals, like there's a metal fund or commodities, GDX is the ticker that I use. I trade GDX. If you're into the energy play, ExxonMobil is my proxy for it. And then Bitcoin, I'm not showing the proxy that I would use for Bitcoin. I'm hesitant to show it because it's so volatile. I have it charted out and it's super volatile. I'm not a big advocate for going long on Bitcoin, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Let's switch to ExxonMobil. I want to show you some of the news headlines down here, just because I feel as a stock trader, not as an investor, one has to follow the headlines and understand what the narrative. When doing trading, we have to be able to distill information that we get from our friends, from the news, from social media, from websites about what's going on for a particular market or a particular stock. It's important that we distill the info. We can't just take it for the surface value. When I scan the news for ExxonMobil, the preeminent narrative is that oil is doing a breakout. Okay, it's a big breakout play. So I'm going to switch to the weekly chart for us to take a look. So here's ExxonMobil on a weekly chart. I'm going to go like this to just only show the chart. Okay. For me, I feel that the narrative for breakout for oil is I don't know. I think it's a little misguided. I think the reasons for it aren't there, and I'm sharing with you my thoughts because from my experience, the technicals are the easiest way in which we can make objective decisions and not be clouded by everybody's chatter about what's going on. So what I see for ExxonMobil is this. On Sunday, I made these annotations, and you can see it. And you can also see that I was wrong over the past 3 days, right? My thesis was resistance, price was coming into a zone of resistance, right? Sunday would have been, yep. So you can see this candle. This is the Friday 8 March candle. So of course we don't trade on the weekends, so that the end of Friday price was right at the zone of resistance. And I said, I think that resistance will hold, right? And you can see that it popped up on Monday, and on Tuesday it actually sold down and closed underneath the trend line, only to have today's price be gapped up and sold down, and it's up here at the 109.50 range. Now, you might say, well, hey, John, your prediction is completely wrong. Sure, yeah, that's your right to say that. But I think that the fact that on the RSI, let's just switch here. This is just full zoom of the RSI. The RSI, you might say, well, look, the RSI has burned through the prior bearish divergence. Okay, you could say that because that's what the data shows. Now, from an experience standpoint, this type of behavior, I've observed quite a bit of that over the past almost a year, where the market makers push price to behave in a certain way such that there's a fake out. There's always a fake out being had. Somebody has to hold the bag. So right now, I feel this is a fake out of a momentum change. In fact, if you zoom in to the hourly, okay, on the hourly, you can obviously see upward movement in price. That's so obvious, okay? And then on the hourly, okay, I'm laughing at myself because there's no bearishness. There's no bearishness down here. And I'm doing this real time for your benefit. I'm not scripting it. So you can see that my analysis of what's going on is exactly what I'm sharing. So maybe this is going to be a change. This will be a zone of support then. I'm going to switch over to the daily. Maybe one can say that, if price comes back down here, that this is support. So I'm going to switch this to green. And yeah, it might be support. Okay. So if you want to go long on ExxonMobil, well, price might come down and use this as support. Yeah, that's just the way this works. We're not always right. And we'll have to see. If price gets underneath that trend line, then maybe the thesis for the bearish move remains or returns. But right now, this might be bullish. Well, I'm going to have to, let's zoom out here. Let's do a quick weekly view. It might be bullish. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not fully convinced. The data says it might be support. Okay, but I'm not going to take a long one myself. Okay, switching to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's just ripping. And the proxy that I track, I'll just tell you, MicroStrategy, that one is completely ripping up. So to me, it's going parabolic. And for those who are in that trade, MicroStrategy trade, or if you're interested, put a comment for me. I'll do an analysis for it over the weekend. All right, so Bitcoin here, daily chart. You can see this long divergence here that goes back all the way to November last year. Then you can see that in the March time frame, it burned through it. Okay, and then because of this huge move right here, okay, this move, because of that, it burned through this prior divergence, right? Again, I think that the way price moves is they're trying to fake us out. So here's further divergence, but on a shorter scale, a few days instead of weeks. And you can also see that this is a rising wedge, okay, which is a bearish pattern. What I did do on Sunday was show you the hourly chart because I wanted to explain that sometimes, depending on the ticker, we have to go to a different time scale to get better fidelity, better read on it, especially Bitcoin. Bitcoin is so volatile. So what you can see here, just to give you a view, you can see that there's this very obvious rising wedge, and that price has behaved a certain way every time it touches the lower trend line, and it's behaved a certain way when it's above the trend line. Okay, so to me, these trend lines are legit. So the question then is, what is it going to do next, right? So putting the RSI on, let me turn this off because it's so busy. Okay, We got the RSI up here. You can see that the RSI on the hourly standpoint is downwardly moving. I just like to depict it in a slightly different way. So it's a slightly thinner line because that's on the hourly, whereas the thicker red line is on the daily. So you can see that there's a bearish divergence. Price up here is losing momentum. And even if you look at the volume candles down here, let's see, here's the volume candles. Typically, I don't draw lines on volume candles, but I'm just going to do it here just to prove a point. You can see that the volume candles, and this is not real technical analysis. It's not something I would teach, but I'm just showing you because visually when you look at volume candles, you have to use it as a tool to help you understand price behavior of participants. Okay, so the volume's going down. There's bearishness. You've got this rising wedge up here. So I'm going to put an alert here for when price crosses down and when it closes. So you can see here when Bitcoin on the hourly closes below that trend line, TradingView will send me an email or a text or however I wanted to contact me. So then what I would do is I would switch over to take a look at the proxy that I would use to trade this. I don't like trading ETFs. So there are a handful of Bitcoin ETFs out there, okay, which are new to the market. And the thing with ETFs are the management fees. So regardless if you go long or short, you're paying management fees on top of the slippage that you get with regard to price entry points and price exit points. And if you're interested in understanding those concepts, leave me a comment. I've been thinking about how to share info about what I call the financial ecosystem, all the participants that you're not aware of, which affect your ability to trade at the best price. Okay, so anyway, Bitcoin prediction. Well, the hourly, you can see that with all the bearishness, I think price is going to go down. There are going to be quite a few people holding the bag. So this will be a correction, short-term correction, maybe back down to 60,000. And we'll go from there because it's such a volatile stock. Peek again on the daily just so I can get a feel for it again. Yeah, so for now, let's see. It might come down to 62. Give it a week. I'm sure the news will come up with something, some sort of crazy news headline for why Bitcoin is dropping. I think ultimately the big test for Bitcoin is whether it will ever come back down to this line here, okay, this trend line. All right, so those are the tickers for today, which is a midweek review. Good luck with your trades for the rest of the week, and give it a like and all that, and leave a comment. Thanks. As always, remember that my content is for educational purposes only. It's not investment advice. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And when you subscribe, please do hit the bell icon